Good morning, everyone. Hope you guys are doing all right. It's me, your boy Ryan Flowers, aka Clutch Sports Talk, and welcome to another edition of NFL Sunday Wake Up with me. It's week 2 in the NFL, man. So we are going to keep rolling along. We got tons to talk about today. Got to address the Tua Tagovailoa situation that took place on Thursday. I'll share my thoughts on that, but I have a special guest, Bryson Carver from the Carving Up podcast, a part of the Grid Network. He'll be stopping by shortly to give me kind of like a first reaction and his thoughts moving forward on Tua's situation. Also got to talk about Christian McCaffrey, his situation also as well on the injured reserve list as early as Friday. I believe they announced that. What does that mean for the 49ers? Does it affect their playoff implications or championship aspirations? I'll dive into that. Of course, I got to do my week 2 power rankings for the National Football League and then break down every game for week 2 leading up to the Monday night game tomorrow night. And then finally closing out the show with my clutch picks of the week. Started off really good with the Thursday night win for the Buffalo Bills. So listen, if you're here for football, then you have come to the right shop, my friend. So listen, sit back, relax, and just enjoy the show. This is Clutch Sports Talk, NFL Sunday Wake Up with me, Ryan Flowers. You know what to do. Let's go. Welcome on in, everyone. Good morning for everyone waking up here on the West Coast. It's 8 a.m. and it's 11 a.m. Eastern over there on the East Coast. But listen, we have another jam-packed show for you guys today. But before we get started, make sure if you haven't already subscribed to the YouTube channel, you got Clutch Sports Talk podcast on YouTube and as well the Grid Network. We are trying to build something there. So if you want some other type of sports genres or some other sports content creation, we have tremendous talent on the Grid Network. So make sure if you haven't subscribed to the channel, do so now. It really helps out both of our channels as we continue to grow. So we appreciate you guys. Also, before I get started, big shout out to my boy Demler Zamora III. He is set to fight this upcoming Friday on the 20th in Arizona on Top Rank. It's going to be on ESPN Plus. When I get the times, I'll let you guys know. I'll drop it on my social media so you guys can help support him. He's a young fighter from here in Las Vegas, looking to stay undefeated. I believe he's 18-0 now. He's undefeated and he's been doing his thing. So make shout out to him. All right. Before let's just get into it. Let's talk about Tua, who those who don't know, he suffered yet again another concussion. And it's getting a real apparent that it may be time for him to step out right now. I'm kind of on both sides of the fence. At one point, I'm like, he's a grown man. He should be allowed to do what he wants to do, right? But on the other hand, too, as a human being, I'm like, dude, you need to probably go sit down somewhere and count that money, that $160+ million that was guaranteed to him by the Miami Dolphins. So I'm hearing on both sides. Both arguments can be made for both sides. But it's sad because he's at a crucial moment in his career where he just got paid, right? They had some success last year. Obviously, the team itself hasn't had that much success. They continue losing to these playoff caliber teams. But Tua, once they've added Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, he's starting to come out, be one of the top quarterbacks in the National Football League, which could be debatable, but that's for another topic, right? The Dolphins are in a situation where, of course, they want him to play because they paid him, right? But then they can also look bad too, is because if they roll him out there again, then something bad can happen and probably will happen, right? Here's the thing with CTE that we don't really understand, or most people don't understand. A doctor can clear you by next week, hell, by today, right? Whatever doctor you want to talk to, right? Whether it's the team doctor or some other third-party doctor. A doctor will clear. There's someone out there in America that will clear this man. That's not the issue. The problem is the residual effects of CTE. Now, I've been talking to people very, candidly and over the last couple of days, and I'm like, listen, he can do what he wants to do, but the point is that it's going to catch up to him at some point. It's whether does he want to live a nice life now, which he will. Financially, he's stable. And then later on down the line, maybe 10, 15 years from now, he can be a complete vegetable. And that's the actual outcome that he's looking at. So if it was me personally, and this is my personal opinion, I would probably sit down and just say, you know what? I played the game at a higher level for quite some time. Played at Alabama, was a stud there, high school was a stud, came to the NFL, maybe not quite the stud, didn't win that championship, but you got your bag, man. And unfortunately, concussions are not something that you can just heal from. It's not like a broken bone. It's not a torn ligament. The lasting effects of brain damage is tremendous and it's intense. So, but that's enough for me. I want to bring into the show Bryson Carver from the Carving Up podcast. He 3 shows weekly, and I want to get his initial reaction. So let me bring him on really quick here. and get his reaction about Tua. Hey, what's up, Bryson? How you doing, man?
Doing well, Ryan. Appreciate you having me on, my man. How you doing?
Pretty good, man. Pretty good. So Tua, right? We all saw what happened Thursday night. What was your initial reactions when you saw him take the hit and then you saw the whole hand gesturing? Because we've seen that before recently.
Yeah, so obviously when you refer to the hand gesturing, it takes you back to that first official diagnosed concussion that he suffered against the Bengals 2 years ago. It's one of the most frightening scenes I've ever seen for an NFL football game. I was watching, that play and he's running for the first down. Tua is not typically a running type of quarterback. Certainly, he's not going to extend plays in that fashion. When he hits Damar Hamlin of all people, like what are the chances that's, the collision that occurs?
Right.
But I remember when he goes down, his back is to the end zone. The Dolphins are inside the 5 or inside the 10-yard line, and he points in the opposite direction, like first down. I'm like, oh my gosh, he just suffered another one.
Right.
And no, it was tough to see. And Mike McDaniel said after the game, Mike McDaniel was very, adamant, like, he needs to be the quarterback of his family. Like, let's not speculate about retirement. Let's worry about Tua the man. Unfortunately, that's not what you and I are in the business of doing. But listen, I think this is I agree with you. I think this is Tua's decision. I think he's earned the right to make that call. What I will say is that I have a hard time believing that the fact that he signed a contract that's going to pay him in excess of $160 million guaranteed, that isn't going to come into the decision at some point.
Right.
I know I read this morning that he's going to see some neurologist. Ian Rappaport said that he's most likely going to continue to play. There's no timetable for his return. But listen, I mean, that's four concussions in the last 2 years. Like,
right.
We've talked about it. As these continue to add up, the more dangerous long-term it becomes for Tua the man. So, I mean, I tend to agree with you. If it were me, I would probably retire, but it's Tua's call, and, we'll see what he decides to do.
Do you think the Miami Dolphins have some type of responsibility to him? I know they're paying him. He's an employee. We look at the NFL, these are players, but essentially it's a business. And if you continue to roll a guy like this out there, who is what's the word, for lack of a better word, he's a liability at this point. I mean, obviously we all know it's football. Guys can get concussions every weekend. We know that. But for whatever reason, Tua, he is what's the word? His concussions are more prominent than anybody else's concussions in the last 10 to 15 years in the National Football League. So, like I said, dude, what do you think the responsibility of the Miami Dolphins is or should be moving forward?
I mean, again, listen, they gave this guy a massive contract, so they're tied to him whether he plays or not for the long haul. Listen, this is one of those situations where the previous 3 concussions, it felt like they were preventable, right? The first one against the Buffalo Bills, not necessarily that the play was preventable, but the fact that he was out there was preventable. The first concussion he suffered against the Bills 2 years ago, I remember he slammed his head on the back of the turf, came back in the second half when I thought that was insane. He plays 4 days later against the Bengals. That's when he suffered the really scary concussion. He should not have been on the field for that game. And then Christmas Day in 2022 against the Packers suffers another one and ends up finishing the game. So all of those situations feel like the Dolphins could have handled it significantly better than they did. In this instance, I mean, it's a pretty routine hit. It's not like the classic, the last 3 we've seen from him where he, again, slams his head on the turf. It's a pretty routine, collision with the safety for the Buffalo Bills. So again, I think the Dolphins' best course of action is to let Tua make that call. I would also, again, I have to imagine there's going to be some conversations with Mike McDaniel, with other, higher ups in the Miami Dolphins organization. Right. In this instance, I can't put a ton of fault with the Miami Dolphins. They couldn't have seen this coming, certainly the way that it happened.
No, I mean, 100% agree. Now, really quick, let's put on your GM hat, right? Okay. Let's just say he doesn't retire, okay? And he wants to continue playing. What are you doing as a GM? You're part of the brass here at the Miami Dolphins. What would you be thinking about right now if he continues to play?
Investing heavily in an offensive line. I mean, that's kind of, if you look at the Miami Dolphins offense, obviously they're an offense built on speed. Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Raheem Mostert, H.M. I mean, they got some dudes that can move out there. At this point, we know Tua is kind of a left-handed Jared Goff in some ways, right? Yeah. The arm strength isn't going to blow you away. He's pretty accurate, moves well in the pocket, but he's not necessarily great at extending plays. I think whether it's in free agency, whether it's in the draft, I think that needs to be something that they really make a focus on, because if you notice that game against the Buffalo Bills, I mean, they were consistently getting pressure on Tua throughout the course of the evening. Right. And listen, the quarterbacks are going to deal with pressure. We understand that, but if he is indeed going to play, knowing the concussion history, I think you owe it to him as an organization, especially as much money as you've invested in this guy, to be able to put him in the best position possible to protect himself. Yes, maybe he'll go rogue like he did on that fourth down the other night and try and run and pick up first downs in short yardage situations. But by and large, that's not really Tua's game. So invest in offensive line. Do what the Detroit Lions have done with Jared Goff, and that's why he's been so successful there. They've, in my mind, got the best O-line in football. So really, put an emphasis on improving the protection around Tua, and I think you'll see a better version of himself, and hopefully, knock on wood, less head injuries, and hopefully no head injuries, even though that's
What if for some reason they I'm gonna say tank, but they don't have a really successful season? They miss it on the playoffs. They're in that top 5-10 discussion of draft picks. Does the consideration of taking another quarterback, does that come into your mind as a GM right now for the Miami Dolphins?
Oh, I think it has to. We saw Tom Brady when he was at his apex prime. The Patriots took a QB in the second round in Jimmy Garoppolo. So we've seen teams do this in the past. I wouldn't be shocked. I doubt the Dolphins use a first round pick on him, even on a quarterback, even if he is that high up. But could it be a situation like a Russell Wilson in the third round, a Kirk Cousins or Dak in the fourth round? Maybe. We've seen a lot of quarterbacks in those mid to late rounds pan out and have very successful careers. So listen, I think it is respect to Skylar Thompson, but he's not the guy long term in Miami. So no, but listen, I think again, the Packers, when Aaron Rodgers was in his prime, they took Jordan Love. So Tua could, and I wouldn't necessarily blame him for this, but Tua could take it as like a disrespect and whatever, like maybe his heir apparent being in the franchise. But the reality is his injury history has put them in this position. So I think you bring up a great point. Second, third, fourth round, I'd definitely be, keep your eye out for the Dolphins to take a QB in that situation.
Yeah, man. Well, it's definitely a very weird situation that the Dolphins are in. They're kind of stuck in a rock between a hard place. They paid him, but then they also need him to be out there, because without him, you obviously saw what happened the rest of that game. Skylar Thompson is not him, right, as the kids would say. And they're and all their Lamborghinis and Porsches and Waddle and Hill, they just were in the garage. They couldn't do anything. So I guess it's going to be a wait and see situation. But Bryson, man, thanks for taking some time. I know it's short notice, but I appreciate you, man, hopping on. And let us know, when is your shows again?
My show's Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific. I'm on Facebook for the moment, and I'm also on the Grid Network's YouTube channel and the Carving It Up YouTube channel. You can subscribe. We try and put out content every day, but we talk about, obviously right now, a ton of NFL, some NBA, baseball, college football. So we talk about everything. But listen, man, I appreciate you having me on. I had you on the show a couple weeks, or about a week and a half ago, after the Ravens Chiefs opening night game. Love having you on the show, and always love our conversations, man. I appreciate it.
Appreciate it, man. Thanks a lot for stopping by. Appreciate you.
Yes, sir.
There he is, man. Bryson Carver, Carving Up Podcast. I wanted to get his thoughts on it because he's a very insightful individual. And everything he said was definitely spot on. I couldn't have said it any better. I didn't say it any better. He said it better than me. So when you have a guy like that in your bullpen, you got to bring him in. So, all right, let's get some comments real quick before we move on. We got Patrick. What's up? Good morning, Patrick. He says, good morning and happy NFL Sunday news article. New articles available on the Grid. Yes, please check him out. Head over to the Grid Network, our website, and check out the articles by Patrick Brown. They are phenomenal. I love the one recently about the Dallas Cowboys and the Browns. So that was a good one. So make sure you check him out. He also says each week is hold your breath with Tua. Absolutely. Anytime he snaps the ball, you're like, oh my God, is this guy going to take one last hit, and you're not wishing that, but of course. He also says offensive linemen are the most valuable with Miami. Is a must moving forward. They can't continue to watch this every week, seeing their friend. Yeah. So, and the sad thing is that this last one really had nothing to do with the offensive lineman. He took off and ran, slid, or whatever he did. He's just really not. One thing, and this, I'll wrap up on Tua here, but one thing about Tua is that he's not really good at running outside of the pocket. that's his thing. Like he don't know how to protect himself. He's very negligent. You see other quarterbacks, they run, they get out of bounds, or they slide. He's going head first. So that's something he has to really think about. When somebody else will mention too, maybe possibly him wearing the Guardian cap. If you don't know what that is, it's a protective mesh that goes over the helmet, adds like extra padding. Or the Q collar. That's another thing. A lot of players are wearing the Q collar. Supposedly it's supposed to restrict some of the brain fluid or blood flow in your brain, so that way if you do get hit, your brain doesn't just swash around in your head. I don't know. I'm not a scientist, but well, but again, like I always say, this is like my coin phrase of the show. Is like, we'll just have to wait and see with Tua. All right, moving on. Speaking of injured players, Christian McCaffrey in the news, breaking news, or this over the weekend. He's on injured reserve list due to a lower leg injury, which has been nagging him. I think the 49ers they were trying to play this out as long as they could. But it was got to the point where they just really couldn't hide it anymore, and they had to put him on the injured reserve. So they've done that. He's there. Listen, no matter how you spin it, this is a significant blow to this team. Now, it may not affect them now, right, per se, because they're still going to be heavily favored in most of their games because they have other talented individuals on this team. But moving forward, if you're talking about championship level play, playoffs, it's a big blow. And they need him to get healthy as fast as possible. I mean, listen, from what we've seen, the 49ers system is a plug and play. Every running back that Kyle Shanahan puts out there rushes for 1,000 yards. Now, Jordan Mason, I believe his name, who just got the start last week against the Jets, he rushed for over 100 yards, well on his way to 1,000 yards, I guess, and he'll continue to rack up some more yards as he'll continue to be the starter. But he's not as dynamic as, at least we don't know yet, if he's not as dynamic as Christian McCaffrey. So now they can get by. Like I said, they still got Debo, and we saw a lot of Debo in the backfield the other night. So we'll probably continue to see that. They still, Brandon Ayuk's there. You still got George Kittle. So, and that defense is phenomenal. So they can still hang their hat on a lot of other things. They still don't have to really force Brock Purdy to kind of be a Patrick Mahomes kind of guy. He can still kind of manage the game. Don't turn the ball over, make easy completions. But Christian McCaffrey is a weapon either way. So if they're looking at making a deep run into the postseason, you're going to have him in your backfield at some point. I know people who have him on fantasy, they're just probably like, damn, like this guy again. And it's the thing when you do take him in fantasy is like, there's a chance that he's going to get hurt. And granted, he's been pretty healthy the last, 2 seasons since coming over to San Francisco. But it's always out there. It's always out there that he's some type of soft tissue injury away from being placed on the IR. But his absence will be felt. But I think the Niners can kind of handle the wave right now. Do I think it affects them tremendously as far as being the top contenders in the NFC? No. I still think they're one of the best teams still. You look at that defense. It's just crazy how good their defense is. And the way they get after the quarterback and just their scheme alone. So will Jordan Mason be Christian McCaffrey? No. I mean, Christian McCaffrey is probably arguably the best running back in the National Football League. So, but their system, we've seen it time and time again. They plug guys in there and they still get off. So it's just the type of system. 49er fans, I'm pretty sure they're not worried about it. They got a little stiffer test today in the Minnesota Vikings, but I still think they'll outlast them. But we'll talk about that later on. But they're going to have to kind of go into their running back depth. Now, if Mason goes down, then another guy will have to step up. But they're obviously going to have to use their depth moving forward until they can get him back. I don't know how long he's out for. I think he's got to be out at least until is it 4 weeks? I forgot what the rule is on the IR now. Or is it like, can he come back at least after week 7 or week 8, something like that? It's probably changed since I last looked at it. But as far as their playoff implications, they're still one of the top teams. If not the best team in the NFC, them with the Lions, and if the Cowboys get their act together, perhaps Packers, question mark, right? Obviously with Jordan Love being injured right now. But McCaffrey on the injured reserve list, but 49er fans, don't worry. You guys are still in a good position to claim that top spot in the NFC. All right, let's move on. Let's go look at some power rankings, man. This is my first power rankings of the season. I knew one last week. I figured I'd wait a little bit, but before we got a comment here, he says, Patrick Brown, he says, C-Mac or CMC likely won't play until Dallas. They'll keep him on ice until he's good. Right. And if they don't need to roll him out there, that's even better. That's house money, right? And I think they're in a position where they can do that. So they don't need to roll him out there unless they absolutely 100% need to. But I think they'll be fine. So not a big scare. All right. Let's take a look at some power rankings. Let me get my mug off the screen here. Let's see what happened here. Oh, sorry. I don't know what's going on here. I don't know. Let's see here. Why am I still on the screen? Okay, not sure what's happening here, but this is live TV. But I don't want to remove from my stage. Hmm. Yeah, that's weird. It never happened to me before like this. Okay, well, I'm in the way, so you guys can't really see my power rankings. But let's see here. Let's fix this here really quick. Hmm. Get to the bottom of this. Okay, there we go. All right. So week 2 power rankings, I got the Chiefs coming in at number 1. Listen, the reason why I have them at number 1, they're the defending champs, and they're consistent. I mean, and they're explosive on offense. We saw that, and they're led by Patrick Mahomes, who is to me the MVP of this league, is the best player in the league right now. And adding guys like Xavier Worthy to their high-powered attack. Now I know Hollywood Brown is out for the rest of the year, and that defense is a solid defense. It complements their offense, and their special teams is really good. And honestly, it's one of the tougher places to play in the National Football League. So I still got them at number 1. Number 2, I got the 49ers right behind the Chiefs, and only just because the Chiefs outlasted them in the Super Bowl, honestly. But this team is well balanced. They have a top tier defense, which I just talked about. Defensive line, their linebackers are incredible. Their secondary is very versatile, and it makes it very difficult for opposing teams to score. And I love Kyle Shanahan's system. And they have dynamic players in the run game. Obviously, I know Christian McCaffrey is out, but Debo back there is phenomenal as well. So I got them at number 2. Number 3, I got the Texans. They're on the rise in my 3rd spot. Very impressive win. And when I say impressive, I mean that it was a tough game, but they showed that fortitude to hang in there when things kind of got close against a division rival in the Colts. Offensively, this team is phenomenal. I mean, listen, they added Joe Mixon. He went off the other day. Stephon Diggs had 2 touchdowns. We already thought they were good last year. They're even better this year. So shout out to them at number 3. Buffalo Bills, I mean, listen, they lost a lot of talent. A lot of people left them on the side of the road for dead, right? But they go into Miami, just shellac them, right? And Josh Allen, you know, he wasn't just trying to force feed the ball to anybody particularly. He was just spreading the ball around and making. And I think that's what's going to be their recipe for success. They're a well-coached team, and that goes for saying something. So I still got them at number 4 here in my power ranking. And then at number 5, I got the Lions. They're continuing to make strides. It was a good win on Sunday night last week. I guess a depleted roster for the Rams, and it was tough. You know, the Rams really show a lot of fight in that game, but I really like the Lions and what they're doing. They added some guys in the secondary. Jared Goff looked pretty good. If Jameson Williams can continue that play that he had the other night, they're going to be tough. They're going to be tough. You know, him and Amon St. Brown, but I really like what they're doing, and they're becoming one of the more elite teams or elite rosters in the National Football League. And at number 6, I got the Baltimore Ravens. You know, they continue to be on the top here. They're very aggressive on defense. We all know that. And of course, they're dynamic on offense. Why? Because of Lamar Jackson, probably the most dynamic player in all of the National Football League. He's probably one of the most electric and exciting players to watch. But sometimes they can't get it out of the way of themselves. And so that's why I have them at 6. I know they kind of came close to beating the Chiefs a little bit, but in my mind, I didn't really feel like the Chiefs were going to lose that game last week, Thursday. But they're still one of the best, if not the second best team in the AFC for sure. All right, Dallas Cowboys coming at number 7. Well-rounded game last week against the Cleveland Browns. The defense looked phenomenal. The offense with CeeDee Lamb leading the way with Dak Prescott is very potent, very potent. I really like what they can do. Their linebacking core looks it's a mixture of young and veterans and Overshown. And then you also have Eric Kendrick, who's been around the league for quite some time. But I really like what they can do there. This team continues to force turnovers and get takeaways and get after the quarterback. That is a recipe for success if you play on the defensive side of things. And I love how they can get after the quarterback, especially early in the season with Micah Parsons. So if they can keep that up, they'll continue to rise here in the power rankings. Coming at number 8, the Eagles. Kind of a 50-50 assumption about them in their game against the Packers on Friday night in Brazil. Not this Friday, but last week, Friday. They won the game, but I felt like the Packers left a lot on the table there early in the game. I don't know quite yet what to say about this team, but they got the win. Jalen Hurts was okay. Still had three turnovers himself. I still think there's some animosity between him and the head coach. So, but nonetheless, they won. They're formidable for sure. They have talent, AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, Saquon Barkley. They got dudes there. So as long as they have those guys there, they'll be okay. But I think their defense can be had still. But I got them at number 8. Coming at number 9, I got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Very, very low key offseason. But a great win against last week. Who did they play last week? It was the Commanders at home. Baker Mayfield looked really good. That defense looked strong, but the secondary is kind of lacking right now. And they got some injuries there. But since Brady has been gone, they've just been steady, right? And they're not a team that's going to overpower you with talent. But Mike Evans, I mean, honestly, man, he's underrated. He's underrated, even at his age or his tenure in the National Football League. But I like what they're doing on offense, and I like what they can become. And rounding out the top 10, I got the Indianapolis Colts. And now they did lose at home, but I love what the defense can do. I see some glimpses there. Anthony Richardson, I know he didn't complete a lot of passes, I believe only like 9, but some of the passes he did make were like, wow. Okay, so there's potential there. Not saying he's going to be Patrick Mahomes or anything like that, but he's definitely got the potential to really lock in and do something there for the Indianapolis Colts. So those are the top 10. So just kind of reflecting back on it all. I mean, with the Chiefs and the Niners, they're going to be always leading the pack here for the most part, week in and week out until something catastrophic happens. And like I said, the Texans are on the rise. And the Bills, right, too. The Bills are kind of consistently staying there, and the Lions are also on the team on the come up. Obviously, we know that they've arrived, almost making it to the Super Bowl last year. And then the Cowboys too. The Cowboys got to get out their way. And then rounding out the rest of the list is the Ravens, Eagles, and the Buccaneers and Colts. So there you have it. Those are my week 2 power rankings. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section. My buddy here, Ben, he says, I see the Bucs at 9. Yeah, I think that's right around where they should be right now, right? So shout out to him. Patrick says the Giants further kicking themselves in the gut by not re-signing Saquon. Like I get it. Like it looks like that now. It's the first week Saquon went off. Obviously, the Giants, they don't have an offense. Like, here's the thing. Like, you drafted this rookie wide receiver who you really can't get the ball to because no one really fears your run game. So you can't put him out there single matchups or man coverage because no one believes that you can run the football. So, but they didn't want to pay Saquon. So they were in a tough spot. They decided, to move off from him. And it just, so far, it's not working out for them. So, but we knew the Giants weren't going to be a great team anyway. So, all right. Moving on, let's go into some of the breakdowns. Obviously, we had the Bills and Miami Dolphins. That game took place on Thursday night. That's one of my clutch picks of the week. I got that one right, so we're looking good there. Now, let's talk about the Saints and the Cowboys. Now, both teams coming off of victories in week 1. The Cowboys look great, and so did the Saints, but both of their opponents really weren't up to the test. So we'll have to wait. See, Dallas is really good at home to begin the year. But Dallas is I think is more talented at this point than the New Orleans Saints. And I still think that there's some questions on the offensive line for the Saints. So I like the Dallas Cowboys to get after Derek Carr and the Saints. So I got them winning this game today. All right, we got the Giants on the road taking on the Commanders. Jaden Daniels, as a rookie, he struggled last week, which most rookies do. Right, but he was effective running the ball. Now I know Dan Quinn really doesn't want his number 1 quarterback just running around like that. Especially today, because that Giants defensive front, which was really lackluster last week, maybe they're more motivated this week with Dexter Lawrence, Brian Burns, and Kayvon Thibodeau. Maybe they'll be able to kind of get after Daniels, and Daniels is going to be on the run a lot because outside of Terry McLaurin, who's he really throwing to? Daniels is going to have to just be rolling around making plays. But however, though, I still like the Commanders only because they're at home. I think the Giants are still a dumpster fire at the end of the day. So I like the Commanders to take this win at home for Jaden Daniels and Dan Quinn in his home debut, both of their home debuts as a Commander. All right, we got the Colts taking on the Packers. This earlier, before Jordan Love had got hurt, this game was really one of the ones that I really circled that I wanted to watch. But I guess Jordan Love has been upgraded to questionable. That's the last update that I saw. I don't think he plays. I think Malik Willis will get the start, and his touchdown to interception ratio is atrocious, and he has a high sack rate. Like I told you guys in my NFL matchup show, I have no faith in this kid. But I think today the Packers will rely heavily on the run game. But I don't think it'll be enough at the end of the day. I think the Colts will just outlast them. I think it'll be a close game, but I still like the Colts overall to win this game. This is a win. This is a game for the Colts. They need to win. They have to win. You have a really a quarterback that's not even in anyone's list as a top tier or even a top tier backup. You got to go out on the road and you got to win this game. So, but I think it'll be a good game. I think it'll be close. But I like the Colts, and that's another clutch pick of the week. Browns and Jaguars. Both teams are at risk of being 2-0. But I think the Jags are in a better situation than the Browns. The Browns just got shellacked. All right, the Jaguars were winning against the Dolphins, and they kind of let things slip away. But you know, the Jaguars show potential, like I said before, but the Browns defense needs to perform. Myles Garrett needs to get that team going, get that unit going. And Deshaun Watson, I mean, he's a shell of himself. I was telling a friend of mine, I was like, he just needs to get some masseuses going, maybe get his motivation back, because ever since he's been getting alleged for being a sexual predator, he's been, and I'm not saying I'm not condoning it, but I'm just saying like his game is all off. He needs to do something, figure it out legally, right? But I like the Jaguars at home to get the win. All right, we got Jets at Titans. I think this is a get-right game for the Jets. Obviously, listen, opening up on Monday night against the top team in the NFC or one of the best teams in the NFL on the road with your 40-year-old plus a quarterback who's coming off an Achilles, probably not the very optimal situation, I would say. But I think Aaron Rodgers will be comfortable today. Will Levis will probably continue to make mistakes, and that the Jets defense needs to attack him. They need to get at they did not play well on Monday night, and I think, like I said, this is a get-right game for them. I think they just need to put pressure on Will Levis, and he will fold, which I don't believe in him either. But I like the Jets to win this one and move on and get their first win of the season. All right, another clutch pick of the week. We got Raiders at the Ravens. The Raiders have issues offensively, but one thing, a bright spot for the Raiders is that their defense, which we kind of knew was going to be their bell cow, right? But we knew going into this offseason or going to the season that their offense was going to suck, man. Like, you got Gardner Minshew or then the other kid, O'Connell. Like, you know, I don't care what Devontae Adams says. He doesn't want to be there. But he's that type of guy where he's not going to ruffle feathers, but there's no way in hell he wants to be there. Right? They're inept on offense, and you have a defensive-minded coach, which usually doesn't bode well for most teams. So, but I like the Ravens to cover this game. The Ravens were probably thinking we probably should have went into Arrowhead and win that game, but I think at home in front of the Ravens faithful there, Lamar's is gonna go off, I think, and then the Ravens should win this game. So I like the Ravens at that spot. Even though the Raiders defense is good or better, Lamar is just a freak athlete. So, all right, Chargers at Panthers. Really disappointed in the performance last week by the Chargers. And to make matters worse, their best defensive player, Derrick Brown, is out for the year, which is a significant loss to them because he's the only one that gets after the quarterback or does anything on defense. Chargers led by Jim Harbaugh will continue to run the football. And now with Derrick Brown not there, the Panthers are in trouble, right? And if J.K. Dobbins can repeat that performance he did last week against the Raiders, Chargers will have no problem. But that's how Jim Harbaugh is going to have to play this one. Just continue to run the football. But like I said, with the Panthers not having Derrick Brown in that run game is a heavy blow. So I like the Chargers on the road to get this one and improve to 2-0. All right, 49ers at Vikings. The Vikings had a really good performance in week one. Again, against the Giants, so you got to take that with a little grain of salt. And the Niners also had a very solid win, right, against the Jets on Monday night at home. I think this game will be close, right? I think Sam Darnold is he's serviceable, right? I think he's okay. And obviously, but overall, the Niners have the better roster in total. But I think it'll be close. I think the Vikings at home definitely helps benefit their chances there. But I like the Niners to win a close one. To improve to 2-0. All right, Seahawks and Patriots. A very interesting game here. Patriots, they overperformed last week On defense, for sure. Offense, we all know them. They're kind of like the Raiders too, where we kind of knew their defense was going to be okay. The offense sucks, but somehow, some way, they went into Cincinnati and beat the Bengals. Granted, we all know the Bengals started off really slow. They had some guys out. T. Higgins didn't play. Jamar Chase was might be more worried about his contract situation, which he just reported that he's good. He's not going to even try to deal with anymore, which probably means he'll play out next year and he'll probably be out of Cincinnati. Maybe we'll see. But Seattle's offense is actually pretty potent, right? You got DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, not Olave, but Njigba. Running backs. I don't know what status of Kenneth Walker today, but Zach Charbonnet is not a bad drop off as well. But the Patriots offense really needs to get it going a little bit because it struggled a lot in week one. And Seattle has a propensity of making big plays, or they can make big plays. So the Patriots offense is going to have to be ready because they may have to try to keep up with the Seahawks. Okay, so but I like Seattle's chances just because their offense is way more dynamic than the Patriots. So I'm taking the Seahawks in that game. The next one is a very fun game to watch. I think it's a repeat of, I believe, the divisional round last year between the Buccaneers and the Lions. Now, big key note out of this game is the Buccaneers have a lot of injuries in that secondary. Antoine Winfield Jr. is out. So guys like Jameson Williams might be able to eat a little bit more. Amon St. Brown, who really had a lackluster week one performance, he's looking to get back on track there. But I think because of the injuries, the Lions offense is expected to be very effective today over the Bucs, right? And I think really why I'm going to pick the Lions is because they're just healthier. They're at home and they're healthier. I think this is going to be a good game still. Last year's was pretty decent, and I think today will be the same way, but I'm going to take the Lions in this one. In my last clutch pick of the week games, I got the Rams at the Cardinals. I think this has the chance of being a shootout here. Kyren Williams, running back of the Rams, he does well against the Cardinals, and at least last season he did. Now the Rams offensive line is a problem. I think they're just swapping guys in and out. They're getting guys from Costco, Home Depot, wherever they can find guys. They're having tryouts, right, for essentially to replace guys that are on the offensive line. So Matthew Stafford, although him and Cooper Kupp are going to be slinging that ball, but there's going to be some times where I think they just can't protect him, and so I think this is going to be a shootout. Now, as far as to win the game, I'm going to lean towards the Cardinals only because they're at home, but my pick in this game, excuse me, let me change my slide here. My pick in this game is the over because I think this is going to be a shootout back and forth. But I'll take my chances with the Cardinals just because they're not as injured as the Rams. So that one of these Rams wide receivers is going to have to step up with Puka Nacua not being here for quite some time. He's going to be out too. He's also on the injured reserve. So, but I'll take the Cardinals, but I like the over in this particular game. All right, Bengals and Chiefs. Like I said before, the Bengals are used to struggling early in the season. Joe Burrow really not good in the first 2-3 weeks of the season. Hopefully they can get right today. Maybe Jamar Chase will maybe show up today. Maybe his mind is right for now. I'm not quite sure the status of T. Higgins, but tough spot. You're going in the Arrowhead, a team that they've had success with, but not today. Not today. The Chiefs are going to be ready to roll. They've had some time off, and the Bengals are just not really playing good football. So I like the Chiefs in that one. Pretty simple there. Steelers at Broncos. Mike Tomlin has a pretty good record against rookie quarterbacks, so that bodes well for him. Bo Nix. This is a tough challenge. He's never got to see T.J. Watt. Obviously, he's a rookie. You're going to see him today. I'll say this every week. T.J. Watt is probably the most disruptive player we have in the National Football League. It's not Myles Garrett. It's not Micah Parsons. This guy is always around some type of strip fumble, pressure. Just throw on the tape of T.J. Watt. And Bo Nix is going to have to be running for his life today. But I like the Steelers today. I really like the Steelers. They're underrated still. If they can just figure out their offense, right? And I believe Justin Fields is going to get the start, so we're not going to get a reunion of Russell Wilson on the road taking on the Broncos. But if they can just figure out their offense, man, and we've been saying this for the last couple of years, this team would be dangerous because we know where the defense stands, but offensively they're just inept. But I still like their matchup today out on the road in Denver. So All right, Sunday night game tonight. This should be a good one too. We got CJ Stroud versus Caleb Williams. We all know what CJ Stroud did last year as a rookie. Very well noted, documented rookie season. Whereas Caleb Williams had a rocky start last week. 93 yards. Right now, I think this matchup will be a little bit closer. I like the Bears defense. I think that's a really good unit. But the Texans just have they have the better quarterback right now. I think their talent is a little bit more is better. But even if the Bears lose this game, I don't think it's like, oh my God, they're 1-1, they suck. Like, they're still going to have some growing pains because they're only going to go as far as Caleb Williams will take them. But I think each week he'll get better and better. That's the hope. He has the skill set. But I like the Texans tonight. I think the game will be tight, but I think the Texans will eventually just pull away and win this game at home and improve to 2-0. And then finally got the Monday night tail between the Falcons and Eagles. Jalen Hurts, the turnovers, man, it's a problem. It's a problem. And when they play a team that's going to capitalize on that, it will definitely be a problem that'll be in the forefront. But he had a strong performance on Friday night or last week Friday in Brazil against the Packers. We all know Kirk Cousins, his struggles in prime time and against the Eagles too. He's still coming off that injury. Their offense just did not click on last week Sunday against the Steelers. Granted, he had guys like TJ Watt chasing him down. I think the Falcons offense may improve a little bit better because the defense that they're going against is not as potent as the Steelers. But I still like Hurts and Saquon to get this win at home against the Falcons. So there you have it. Those are my predictions and previews of week 1. So so write them down. Maybe win some money today if you guys are placing any bets. And before I get out of here, let's take a look at my clutch picks of the week. Let's see, where is it at? I'm having a lot of issues today with this streaming system here. I'm not sure what's going on, but I did have that before logging in today. My mic wasn't connecting properly, so I don't know what's going on with StreamYard. So figure it out, StreamYards. Get your act together, man. Okay. No, that's not what I wanted, but okay, there we go. All right. Before I wrap up out of here, man, we got the clutch picks of the week. I have Buffalo. Obviously, that's a win in the books for me. I got the Ravens at -9.5 to cover, not just win on the money line, but actually to cover. I got the Colts straight up to win on the money line, and I like the over in the LA Rams and Cardinals game. So there you have it. Those are the picks. Take them, use them if you need to. And before I get out of let's read some comments here before I roll up out of here. So we had Patrick Brown. He says, Bryce, the tiny dancer, Young is looking worse and worse each week. Carolina is on the clock. They are too regretting. Yeah. I'm starting to believe that it's partially Bryce Young is not the guy. Dave Canales is worked wonders with other quarterbacks in national football. It's still early. They thought they went out and got some talent for him. Deontay Johnson, they added him. But I don't know. He just looks overwhelmed. Patrick so says also, Kyler Murray, are you taller and smarter than a 5th grader? Is still immature. Yeah, his comments about, well, it's not my responsibility to get Marvin Harrison Jr. That's stupid. Come on, like, you can dictate who you throw the ball to, man. Just say that you didn't throw in the ball, and it's not the play calling. Okay, and then finally, Patrick says the male Bandit Levis can't be taken seriously when you put that dressing in coffee. Yeah. Honestly, you're right. Once he started talking about putting mayonnaise in coffee, I was kind of like, I'm out on this guy. So I don't know. All right, well, there you have him, and that's the show for today. Thanks for you guys for watching. We had some technical difficulties. Thanks, Bryson, for coming in. I appreciate you from the Carving Up podcast and sharing his thoughts on the Tua saga as that continues to go. Make sure you guys tune in and watch my new episode of NFL Matchups, which will be dropping Wednesday. You guys don't want to miss out. We're going to be previewing all the Week 3 matchups and recapping what took place on Week 2. So you guys don't want to miss out on that video on YouTube on the Grit Network. So if you haven't already, subscribe to that channel, man. I don't know, just do it. I don't know what else to tell you. It's really easy, and it's free. It's free to subscribe. So other than that, man, appreciate you guys for stopping by. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Sit down, watch some football, enjoy company, and we'll see you guys next week live. Until next time, this is your boy Clutch Sports Talk on NFL Sunday Wake Up. Like I always say, never settle till the work is done. Be safe, guys. Peace.